So today we're diving into a really special text. It's called the Ishavasya Upanishad, and it's one of the shortest but also one of the most powerful spiritual writings out there. You know, in just 18 verses, it goes straight for the biggest question we could ever ask. Who are we really? And it all kicks off right here with the opening lines. This is the Shanti mantra, or the peace invocation. These are the very first words, and they immediately set the stage with this beautiful and, let's be honest, a completely mind-bending riddle. And here's what it says in English. That is full, this also is full. From fullness comes that fullness. Taking fullness from fullness, fullness indeed remains. I mean, it sounds like a paradox, right? It's a real head-scratcher.
So yeah, how is that even possible? How can you take the whole thing away from the whole thing and still be left with the whole thing? The thing is, this isn't really a math problem, it's a perception problem. And to solve it, we've got to go on a little journey, shifting our view from how we usually see the world to how this Upanishad wants us to see it.
Okay, so to get our heads around this puzzle, let's start with our default setting, the way we all pretty much see the world every day. We see an illusion of separation. We see a world packed with individual things, and most importantly, we see ourselves as these separate, isolated beings.
In the Vedic tradition, they have a term for this, nama rupa, which just means name and form. You know, my name, my body, my job, my personality, all the labels that make me and make you. But what the Upanishads is saying is, well, that's just a surface-level truth. It's not the whole picture.
And this is where we get this fantastic analogy that just makes it all click. Think about a wave in the ocean. From the viewpoint of name and form, a wave is its own thing, right? It's born, it lives for a bit, it crashes on the shore. It's separate from the ocean. But what if we look at its svarupa, its true essence? What is a wave, really? It's just water. And what's the ocean? It's also just water. So from this deeper perspective, they are exactly the same thing.
This world of separate names and forms is called mithya. Now, mithya doesn't mean it's fake, like it's not there. I mean, the wave definitely looks and feels real. What it means is that it's an appearance that can't exist on its own. It's like seeing a snake in a dimly lit room. For a second, that snake is totally real to you. Your heart pounds, you're scared, but its reality completely depends on the rope that's actually there. The wave's reality completely depends on the water. So, if this whole world of separate waves and people is just an appearance, a mithya, then what's the underlying reality? What's the rope that everything is made of? Well, to find that out, the Upanishad tells us we have to shift our focus from looking at the effect to looking for the cause. The world we see with our senses, that's the karyam, the effect. It's a world of millions of different things, everything is always changing, and we've already established its reality is only apparent, or mithya. But beneath all that chaos is the karanam, the ultimate cause. And what is that cause like? It's one. It's eternal. And it's the only thing that is truly real, or satyam.
And here's another great analogy to make this super clear. Imagine you've got thousands of different gold ornaments, necklaces, rings, bracelets. All of them have different names and different shapes. But a wise person doesn't just see the different ornaments. They see the gold, the one substance that makes up every single one of them. In the same way, the wise see the one reality, the one consciousness that is the substance of every single form in the entire universe.
And you know, this shift in how you see things, it's not just some cool intellectual idea. It has a massive psychological impact. Verse 6 here tells us that when you start seeing that same self, that same fundamental reality in everyone and in everything, the very foundation for hatred and division just dissolves. I mean, how can you truly hate someone else when you realize that in their very essence, they're the same as you?
Okay, so this all sounds amazing in theory, but the big question is, how do we actually live this way? This is where the Upanishad gets really practical. It gives us some very clear instructions on how to bring this vision into our day-to-day lives.
The very first verse gives us this incredibly powerful statement, that renounced, thou shouldst enjoy. Now, this isn't about renouncing the world and moving to a cave. It's about renouncing the false idea of separation, that nagging feeling that I am this separate little ego that has to grab and own things to be happy. Real joy, it says, comes from recognizing you're already one with everything.
So here's the game plan, and it's got two parts that work together. First, you have to intellectually get it. You have to understand the illusion, see the gold in the ornament, see the water in the wave. And second, you have to live your life, do your work, but without being attached to the outcome. This is the whole core of what's called karma yoga. You give your all to what you do, but your inner peace doesn't depend on whether you succeed or fail.
So, what's the end game here? What's the ultimate result of living this way and seeing the world through this lens? Well, the Upanishads is crystal clear about the payoff.
It turns out that pretty much all of our biggest problems, our fears, our grief, our constant disappointments, they all come from one root cause, the delusion that we're this small, separate, fragile individual. We think we're a tiny wave, about to be crushed by the huge ocean. But when we realize our true identity, that entire perspective gets flipped on its head. First up, like we saw in that earlier verse, this vision of oneness pulls out the very root of hatred and insecurity. That feeling of otherness that fuels all conflict, it just vanishes.
Second, it gets rid of grief and worry. The deep pain of loss really comes from being attached to things that are temporary. But when you identify with the eternal, unchanging reality, that profound kind of grief, it just can't find a foothold.
And third, it puts an end to delusion. You know that constant nagging feeling that if I just get that next promotion, or that new car, or that perfect relationship, then I'll finally be happy? The wise person sees through that. They understand that real, lasting peace can only be found in the self, not in the constantly shifting world of things.
This is what's called the jnanaphalam, the fruit of the knowledge. And it's not some prize you get in the afterlife. It's the direct, here and now result of just seeing things that they actually are. It's moksha, a state of total freedom from the psychological suffering that haunts us when we live inside that illusion of being separate.
And so, that brings us right back to where we started. The whole journey is about shifting our identity from being the finite, fragile wave to realizing we are the infinite, eternal ocean. And that leaves us with this one final question. If the wave truly knew it was the ocean, already full, whole, and complete, what would it ever have to fear?